They say some houses are built on love. The Lanning house was built on expectations. In the snowy calm of a Vermont suburb, the Lannings appeared perfect to any passing eye. A father respected as a university professor, a mother known for her quiet charm and watercolor exhibitions, and Tyler, 17, handsome, captain of the baseball team, and the kind of student teachers praised with a proud smile. He was the only child, the center of their world. Until the winter afternoon, that changed everything. Tyler came home from practice, slinging his gym bag over one shoulder, expecting the usual silence of a house filled with familiarity. But that day, there were voices, soft ones, nervous ones. And then he saw them. His parent is standing beside a boy he'd never seen before. Jaden was 14, skin like coffee, eyes wide and still. He said little. He stood behind the Lannings like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to be seen. His coat was 2 sizes too big. His backpack looked older than him. Tyler frowned. "We're just fostering him," his mother said, brushing Jaden's curls from his forehead. "It's only temporary. He's been in 6 homes. Just give him a little kindness, okay?" Jaden didn't speak, but when dinner was served, chicken with thyme, mashed potatoes, steamed carrots, he whispered a thank you, clutching the fork like it might be taken from him at any moment. Tyler noticed how slowly he chewed, how he looked at the Lannings like they were a dream. At first, Tyler said nothing, but something inside him twisted. His mother filled Jaden's plate before his. His father asked Jaden about school, and then the guest was invited to sleep, not on the couch, but in Tyler's room, on a separate bed. But still, Tyler stared at the folded blanket where his guitar usually sat. No one asked him. No one warned him. The Lannings had always been a family of 3. That night, for the first time, it felt like someone was quietly moving into the space that used to belong to him. He tried to convince himself it was nothing, that they were helping a kid in need, that it wouldn't matter. But as the days passed, Tyler began to notice more than just the sleeping arrangements. His mother's voice grew softer when she spoke to Jaden. His father laughed more at Jaden's quiet jokes than he did at Tyler's stories from school. And then came dinner. One night, Jaden sat across from Tyler, the kitchen warm with candlelight, and it hit him. Jaden was in his seat. He was using Tyler's spoon, the one with the tiny chip on the handle, and when their mother smiled, she smiled with a kind of warmth Tyler hadn't seen in years. It was as if the entire table had shifted. And Tyler was being edged out, inch by inch. He didn't say anything. Not yet. But he couldn't unsee it. Jaden was no longer a visitor. He was becoming something more. And in the silence of the room, between clinking forks and awkward glances, Tyler felt a sharp ache that had no name. He went to bed that night and stared at the ceiling for hours, listening to Jaden's breathing across the room. Soft, peaceful, like he belonged there. But what if belonging meant someone else didn't? Tyler didn't know the answer. He only knew this: Jaden was eating his mother's cooking, sleeping under his roof, smiling into his father's approval. And for the first time in his life, Tyler felt like the stranger. He sleeps in my room, eats my mom's cooking, and I realized, the way she looks at him, it's different now. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being the center of this world. If this story moved you, follow for the next chapter on Heart Story, where real emotions live and every twist tells a truth. There's a strange kind of loneliness that comes from being surrounded by people who no longer see you. Tyler began waking up before his alarm, not from excitement, but from the quiet presence of Jaden's breath across the room. He would lie there in the early light, watching the dust spin in the air, and wonder how something so small could change the air in a home. Jaden was quiet, always careful, always watching for signs of rejection. He picked up on routines, quickly setting the table before being asked, helping their mother fold laundry without complaint, remembering exactly how their father liked his coffee. He never asked for anything, but he was always there. Tyler, once praised for doing well, now felt invisible for simply existing. In school, he remained the captain of the baseball team, the boy with the easy grin and strong swing. But at home, he was no longer the one his mother hummed lullabies to while she cooked. No longer the one his father asked about history debates or senior prom. Those moments had faded into a background hum that Tyler could no longer feel a part of. And Jaden, he kept to himself most of the time. But Tyler noticed things. How Jaden flinched when someone raised their voice. How he tensed when their mother reached out too suddenly. How the bathroom door stayed locked for long stretches, and how the sink ran. Not because of brushing teeth, but to hide the sound of crying. Tyler didn't say anything. Until the afternoon, he came home early from practice and opened the door to find Jaden at the desk, sketching. The room smelled faintly of pencil shavings and dust. Tyler was about to say something when he noticed the drawing. A family scene, his parents standing together in the living room, smiles wide, arms open. Jaden was in the picture. Tyler was not. His chest tightened. He stepped closer, but his voice came out sharp. "Are you trying to replace me?" Jaden jumped, nearly tearing the page. He looked down, not saying anything. For a moment, Tyler thought he saw fear in those eyes, but it wasn't the kind he understood. It was the kind that came from a place deeper than anger. "I didn't mean," Jaden began, but Tyler cut him off. "You don't get to draw yourself into this family and erase me." Jaden stood, still small in that oversized hoodie, and spoke barely above a whisper. "I didn't think I was staying." Tyler froze. The words struck harder than they should have, but he didn't respond. He slammed the door behind him, leaving Jaden alone in that quiet room. Later that night, he saw his mother washing dishes while Jaden dried them beside her. She was laughing softly at something he said, a sound that used to be Tyler's reward after long days. He paused in the hallway, hidden by shadows, and watched her hand gently touch Jaden's shoulder. It was subtle, but it felt like something had shifted permanently. She had heard the fight. She hadn't come to ask if Tyler was okay. Instead, she stood in that kitchen with a boy who was supposed to be temporary and held him like something she couldn't bear to lose. Tyler had always been the son, but in that moment, watching them under the yellow kitchen light, he realized he was no longer sure where he fit. Not as the center, not even as a piece, just a shadow between what used to be and what was becoming. I watched them embrace in the kitchen, my mother and the boy I was supposed to welcome. And for the first time, I wondered who is the real son in this house. Sometimes the need to be seen becomes so overwhelming, it turns into resentment, and resentment can rot even the best intentions. Tyler couldn't sleep. Ever since the fight, something inside him wouldn't settle. His mind replayed Jaden's voice over and over again. "I didn't think I was staying." As if this house, this family, this warmth had always been on borrowed time. Tyler didn't want to feel guilty. He wanted to feel justified. After all, wasn't this his home first? So when Jaden left for art club one afternoon, Tyler stayed behind. He told himself it was curiosity, but deep down, it was something darker. He opened the shared bedroom slowly, as if the walls might judge him. Jaden's side was always neat, too neat, like someone afraid to leave a trace. Beneath the mattress, Tyler found a worn envelope, stuffed with folded papers. The writing was small, neat, written in blue ink that had faded in parts. Tyler sat down. He read. Each letter began the same way. "Dear future parents." They weren't real letters. They were prayers dressed up as hope. Confessions that had never been sent. Pleas that had never been answered. "My name is Jaden. I'm 14. I like drawing, especially people. I'm quiet, but I try to be kind. I know I'm not what most people want. I'm gay. I know that makes it harder, but I promise if you don't like that part of me, I'll never say it out loud. I'll be whoever you want. Just please, please let me stay." Tyler stopped breathing. The room, once familiar, blurred around him. His chest tightened. His fingers trembled. Jaden hadn't been trying to steal anything. He had been trying to survive. This wasn't a rival. This was a boy begging for a place to belong, Even if it meant silencing himself to earn it. Tyler gently refolded the letters, placed them exactly where he found them, and stepped out of the room in silence. He didn't speak of it, not to his parents, not to Jaden, but something shifted inside him. He started watching more closely, not with suspicion, but with awareness. Jaden still winced at loud voices. He still flinched when someone moved too quickly. He still curled inwards when attention fell on him in public. And then, one evening, after school, Tyler saw it all come to a head. Jaden had been cornered by 3 boys in the parking lot. Tyler heard them before he saw them. Mocking laughter, cruel whispers, a shove that knocked Jaden's sketch pad to the ground. Jaden didn't fight back. He just froze. Tyler stepped forward without thinking. He didn't know where the strength came from. He just moved. Words were exchanged, then fists. He wasn't a fighter, but sometimes the body moves before the mind catches up. Tyler took a punch to the face, hard enough to knock him back. The world tilted. His nose bled onto his shirt. But the boys ran. Jaden stood there, pale, speechless. Later that night, with a tissue pressed to his face and bruises blooming beneath his eye, Tyler walked into the bedroom. Jaden was sitting on the bed, staring at the sketch he had tried to protect. He looked up. "Why did you do that?" Tyler didn't hesitate. "Because if you can't protect yourself, then let me do it." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a performance. It was the closest thing to love Tyler had felt in weeks. Jaden didn't respond, but in the stillness between them, something quiet unfolded. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was the beginning of something else. "I came home with blood on my shirt." He asked why I did it, and I said, "Because if you can't protect yourself, then let me do it." No one sees the breaking point until it arrives in silence. It happened on a Sunday morning. The house smelled of toast and maple syrup. Jaden was setting the table, and Tyler was stirring coffee when their father collapsed on the kitchen floor. One moment he was reaching for the newspaper. The next, his body crumpled like a marionette with cut strings. Panic tore through the house. The ambulance came. Sirens split the winter air. Tyler held his mother's hand in the hospital hallway as doctors used words like stroke, neurological damage, and long-term care. Jaden sat on a bench, unmoving, his hands clasped so tightly they turned white. Their world shifted again, but this time together. The following days became a blur of hospital visits and insurance calls. Tyler quit baseball without being asked. He needed to drive his mother to appointments. He needed to help make dinner. Jaden tried to help too, tidying the house, boiling water for tea, picking flowers from the frozen garden just to make her smile. But there was one thing Jaden couldn't do: earn money. He wanted to. He asked about part-time jobs, but every place turned him down. Too young, no work permit, not in this town. And so he watched quietly as his family unraveled. Until one night, the hospital called. A significant portion of the medical bill had been covered, 70%, to be exact. The staff assumed it came from the father's former university, some anonymous alumni gift, perhaps a blessing. Relief washed over them, but Tyler wasn't convinced. That same night, long past midnight, he noticed Jaden slipping out the back door, bundled in layers, scarf pulled tight. Something in Tyler told him to follow. He kept his distance, boots crunching in the snow, breath forming clouds in the cold. He expected Jaden to head toward the library or maybe a friend's house. Instead, he turned down a side street toward the city square, and there, under flickering streetlights, with fingers red from cold, Jaden was performing. It wasn't dramatic. He stood quietly, sketching portraits for strangers, offering drawings in exchange for coins. His small cardboard sign read, "Quick sketches, pay what you can." He shivered between lines, but he never stopped. One couple dropped a few dollars. A woman gave him a warm pastry. A child clapped as Jaden drew her face with gentle strokes. Tyler watched from a distance, stunned. This wasn't for fun. This was for survival. Later, as the crowd thinned, Tyler stepped forward. "What are you doing?" he asked, voice soft. Jaden looked up, startled, his gloved hands trembling. He hesitated before answering. "I just thought, or if one day he doesn't come home, at least he'll know I tried, that I did something for the first family who ever called me son." Tyler couldn't speak. The cold bit into his skin, but it was nothing compared to what bloomed in his chest. A pain that came not from loss, but from witnessing someone give everything when they had almost nothing. Jaden wasn't trying to prove his worth. He was simply showing up, night after night, with quiet devotion. Back at home, Tyler didn't tell anyone what he saw, but he stayed awake late into the night, watching the frost collect on the window, thinking about the boy who had once drawn a family without him, yet now stood in the snow, fighting for the one they both shared. "What are you doing?" I asked. Jaden looked back and said, "I just want, if one day he doesn't make it, for him to know I did something for the first family who ever called me son." Spring arrived without permission. The snow melted reluctantly, revealing old grass and new cracks in the pavement. Inside the Lanning household, recovery took on its own rhythm. Their father had been discharged. He moved slowly now, words slurred on tired lips, but his eyes still lit up when Jaden entered the room with sketchbook in hand. Tyler noticed. Everyone did. Jaden no longer felt like a visitor. He was the one who knew which pills were due to at which hour, the one who refilled the humidifier at night, the one who brought a fresh blanket without being asked. Still, something lingered, an unanswered question, a hum beneath the quiet. It came in the form of a letter. One morning, as Tyler was making tea and Jaden was slicing fruit, their mother opened the mailbox and returned pale. She sat at the kitchen table with a sealed envelope in trembling hands. There were no words, just the official logo of a medical laboratory printed in small black type, a DNA report. She confessed it quickly, without drama. She had sent samples months ago, after noticing little details, facial similarities, old timelines, dates that aligned too easily. The report confirmed what her instinct had already told her. Jaden wasn't just any boy. He was blood, her husband's child from a mistake long buried in the past. A night from youth, a silence that had become a scar. Jaden stood motionless. Tyler couldn't move either. Their father said nothing. He looked down at his hands, eyes flickering not with shame, but with the weight of consequences he never expected to face like this. Tyler wanted to scream, but the rage didn't come. Not this time, because somewhere deep down, something made sense now. Jaden hadn't stolen his place. He had been carrying a hidden piece of the family all along. His mother spoke gently. She had known for weeks, but chose silence, not to lie, but to allow room for love to speak first. She hadn't told her husband, hadn't even told herself fully, but she had seen something in Jaden's quiet presence, and she chose to rescue, not reject. Tyler left the room. He walked until his feet ached, until the anger dissolved into something softer. And when he returned home, hours later, he found Jaden sitting on the back porch with his sketch pad, alone. Tyler sat beside him without a word. He looked at the blank page, then at the boy who had once erased him from a drawing. He thought of hospital corridors, frozen sidewalks, and fists thrown in parking lots. He thought of envelopes, unspoken truths, and a quiet sentence whispered in the cold. "I just want to be a son." And for the first time, Tyler spoke with no pride, no defense. "You were never replacing me," he said. "You were reminding me how to love." Weeks passed, graduation arrived. Tyler stood on stage, holding the valedictorian speech Jaden had helped edit. The crowd hushed as he stepped to the microphone. "I used to believe being the only son made me special," he said. "But love doesn't compete, it teaches, and sometimes it teaches through the very person you thought was stealing from you." He paused. I once feared losing my place, but I gained a brother, not because we share blood, but because he stayed when he had every reason to leave. Jaden watched from the front row, eyes glassy, fingers curled around a scholarship letter from an art school out of state. Full ride. He had finally been seen for who he was, not tolerated, not hidden, chosen as family. Family is not who we are born from. It's who we choose to keep when everything else tells us to let go. Have you ever felt replaced, only to realize you were being invited to grow? If this story spoke to you, follow Heart Story for more stories that remind us family isn't always who we start with, but who we stay for.